Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. Could the gold to silver ratio narrow to 20 ounces of silver to 1 ounce of gold? Let's find out. That is the topic of today's video. It is something very interesting to explore. If you look at the history of the gold to silver ratio, there was a time when it was really essentially fixed to a point of about 15 to 1. Of course, the mining ratio of gold to silver, some say, is about 10 ounces of silver for 1 ounce of gold. Some say it's as low as 8 to 1. But regardless, by the actual physical amount of the metal above ground, really, it seems like that the gold to silver ratio, even at 20 to 1, would be very high. But as you know, there are a lot of different factors that come into play with regards to calculating that gold to silver ratio, because that gold to silver ratio is measured by the price attached to the metals, and that is the spot price for an ounce of gold versus an ounce of silver. Silver is one of those metals that is sort of changed in some ways, or at least it's been evolving in terms of how it's seen in the marketplace. Silver, as many of you know, has been utilized in industry and technology for years. In fact, there was a time when a lot of silver was used to develop photographs. That has since changed a lot, and it has evolved into various uses in the industrial and technical sectors, everything from solar panels to medicine. You can find silver in wearables these days, and as well as being utilized in electronics of all shapes and forms. And we live in an electronic age. We live in a digital age where the devices that more than likely you're watching this on, and from which this video was recorded, requires silver, among copper and other metals. And it's not likely to be replaced anytime soon. And so it has become essentially another commodity. So in that way, it trades just as much, if not more so, as a commodity as it would being recognized as money. And so if you look in that scenario, most analysts out there do see silver as sort of a hibernating money. In other words, it's something that it's they recognize it as money, most traders out there, but it's not trading as such. So it's talked about as that hedge against economic instability. And sort of just like gold is. But gold is much more of a stable hedge. This particular ounce of gold is something that is very finite. It is rare. It is treasured. It packs a lot of value for the size. And you can feel that weight of the value with an ounce of gold. And with silver, it is something that is seen as common. It's something that's out there. It's utilized so much, and for those of us that are in this space, we can go anywhere to any bullion dealer, and more than likely we're going to be able to find silver very easily and for a cheap price. We are spoiled in a sense. Sub $20 silver has become the standard nowadays, and the gold to silver ratio at more than 80 to 1 has become almost the standard. And so the question is will the silver to gold ratio fall to 20 to 1? And there are situations and possibilities where it could. Jeff Clark is an analyst and a very smart guy and respected, I believe, as far as a lot of the research that he has done. I may not agree with everything that he says or the conclusions that he comes to in some of his research, but one thing is for sure, and that is that the silver market is tiny. The gold market is very tiny, and as tiny as the gold market is, in terms of the overall value tied to each ounce of gold out there in the space now, in the trade sphere, so to speak, silver is even tinier. And why is that? Because people aren't paying attention to silver. in terms of its price, in terms of its value as that hibernating money. It's money that's in a hibernation mode right now. And the reason why I use that term is because I believe that it could be awakened sometime down the road. So I believe there is a possibility, although albeit slim, where we could see the rush to silver, and especially if gold takes off. But it's going to take gold taking off and silver going higher in price along with gold at the same ratio. In other words, if gold goes up 20%, silver could go up 20% or even less, which means the ratio could widen before it narrows. Now, according to Jeff Clark, he believes that people will be panicking and rushing in to the markets if it goes to that falls to that level, because it'll be a shock to the system when you see these explosion in gold prices. And so when gold prices, and that is the thing to watch, when gold takes that big jump and leap forward, people are going to realize, you know what, gold is too expensive, or even as such, they may still invest in gold, but they may literally invest in silver. And I'm using my words very carefully here because for those who are familiar with this channel, that I do not like to use the term investment with regards to silver. But there are going to be investors that will pull into this market, and they're going to see silver as a very as a possibility to increase in price greatly, and they'll see it as an opportunity cost. And they'll take the high ratio that's abnormally high, even though you and I both know that they'll watch these markets. We see that it's been relatively normalized at 80-1, 80 plus to 1 nowadays. And more than likely, there's not really much reason for it to narrow to any appreciable level. So what does that mean? What does how long will it go like this? Who knows? But my guess is probably like we saw in 2011, like we saw in 1980, we will see that ratio narrow. Will it go as low as 20-1? Unlikely, is my guess. Unlikely. However, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but to get to that lowest ratio, because I think the lowest, I believe, was like 32-1, if we're serving from memory, when you looked at it when this spikes occurred. But keep in mind, there's anomalies associated with these spikes in 2011 and 1980. They were for very, very short amounts of time. In other words, those spikes, people think about, in 2011, silver got to $48 an ounce. It was only for days. I don't even know how long it was, but it was not very long that is at that high. Then it went down a little bit, and it kept going down. And so it's on the way up and it's way down, but the peak is for a very narrow window of time. So here is my prediction where it could possibly fall to 20-1. If we see the highs that we saw in the past, the price level jumping and being sustained for an appreciable amount of time, then if that happens and you see record prices for both metals, or at least for gold, then I believe you are going to have a run on silver, and you will see that ratio narrow. But it's only going to be that unlikely scenario that those prices, those record prices, are sustained for a great enough time in the marketplace, especially for gold, to where you see that ratio squeeze in and squeeze into an appreciable amount or level. Now, Jeff Clark represents a company who is a dealer who sells the precious metal. And so you have to take everything, any advice that is given, depending on the source. Consider the source. Now, that's not saying that he's wrong, but it's also saying that he's probably exaggerating to a point. So I just would like to provide caution for this with regards to considering the source. And by the way, I think anything you hear from anybody, it's not necessarily a bad thing to question. Obviously, we want to question everything that we hear from anywhere. But just because someone is tied with a bullion dealer such as Jeff Clark does not mean that they're wrong, and it does not mean that their motives aren't necessarily pure, what have you. And that is something to consider as well. But I would say that no matter what you hear about any topic, and especially this one here, be very cautious as you approach purchasing precious metals, for sure. But I'm here to say that I believe, just off of my gut feeling and theories, that we could see 20 to 1, the ratio of gold to silver, fall to that low of a level if these record high prices are met again and are sustained for a appreciable amount of time. And it will only be because investors are coming into the market. You and I, that we stack precious metals, we don't do it for investment purposes. We do it as a savings account, a way to hedge ourselves against economic instability. But for speculators and investors, they're going to pop into the market too, and it's going to pump up the price and pump up the and squash down that ratio. I certainly do believe that could happen. But that's just my guess and my theory. Don't take anything I say to the bank, but take your money to the bank, because that's a good place to have some of it, I believe, and also to have some money, by the way, in terms of cash on hand and in the form of gold and silver. Gold being what I would consider to be dormant money, and but money nonetheless, and recognized as such by the Bank of International Settlements. Gold is a Tier 1 asset, the ultimate hedge against economic instability, and silver is hibernating money. That's right. This is money that is not, it's kind of asleep right now. But you know what? It is money nonetheless. We recognize it. The very fact that the United States government is minting these coins every year, I think, is a proof positive that we are looking at money before your very eyes right here. So I hope you found this video helpful. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. Read them in the comment section below. We're going to remind you that I post videos on a daily basis, and I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate. Yes, I want you to rate this video, and please comment in the video. That would be most helpful. And share this video would be extremely, extremely helpful. And yes, subscribe. Yes, that's the dirty S word. I want you to subscribe if you can. If you will, one click of one button. There you go.